How am I going to make it through this quarter? 3.5 clauses? 5 months into relocating to a new country, unsettled, microaggression, institutional discrimination, and racism sets in, along with different work ethics. I feel deprived of choices and feelings of helplessness kicked in. Little did I know my heart was becoming infected, overloaded, pulled in many directions, triggered by the discriminations, privileges, classisms, and racisms that I encountered in Rothenberg and a commander's race, class, and gender. My heart was raging in war. Unknown to me, war at work, war at home, war at church, war. The anatomy of peace was perfectly timed. Not only did it balance the triggers and kept me in line, instrumental in my personal and professional growth at work and church. I had developed complacency in speaking up. The concerns that I raised were threatening my colleagues' perceptions of themselves and escalating unhealthy behaviors towards me. I recognized that my speaking up was colluding with the vicious cycles and increasing the conflict of my colleagues. Similarly, being quiet is not the solution. Meanwhile, my heart was charging towards war. I was reminded that I cannot remain objective or see clearly and might even compromise my best opportunity to make obvious decisions. It was then Arbind reminded me that people whose heart are at war towards others can't consider others' objections and challenges enough to be able to find a way through them. As such, I might risk responding to my colleagues and our organization's way of being towards me, the patients and staff, rather than to their behavior. I had to rein check and resolve to fight this war with a heart of peace, caring for the perceived threat and enemy as a person and not as an object. I now constantly supervise self, a skill I had developed earlier in CPE. Now, every time my heart is still or I smell a war brewing, the question jumped out right at me. Is my heart in a state of peace or war? I wrestle with the question, wondering analytically, am I misinterpreting the root cause of the problem at work? Is my response unconsciously reproducing the very problem I'm trying to solve? I'm encouraged to develop a strategy of peace for work, church, and every aspect of my life that tried to box me in. The reality is, I can be both in and out of the box at the same time. I can be blaming and justifying towards my work institution, colleagues, family members, and even church, and yet be clear-sighted towards my patients. I slowly replace conflicts with cooperation, admitting that while the solution to our work and church challenges are so clear to me, I can only change me. Knowing correction rarely changes others. Nevertheless, I'm constantly reminded that I must always keep open the invitation to change. I had to admit, while the strategies I was taking were normal and ethical, it was creating war in my new environment. Am I dehumanizing those who have dehumanized me? It is easy to get on my patient's level, but I was sure not happy about getting on the depraving level of some of the staff that have been mistreating me. The truth is, I'm not more deserving, and despite their mistreatment, they are not objects. It might be getting on some levels with them to invite the heart to be at peace rather than to go to war. I am reminding myself that I am free to embrace God's plan for my life, to see a different past, present, and future, knowing that I am not defined by their mistreatment. Instead, I can be empathetic towards them. Irrespective of the ambiguity, I now know how to keep my heart at peace, even when there may be in a war.